Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated, even though the vaccine is safe, effective, and free. You might be confused about what is true and what is false about COVID-19.
The United States has a population of almost 334 million. The population of the world is about 7.9 billion. This means that the United States has about 4.2% of the world's population. The report from Johns Hopkins is that the world has had about 258 million COVID-19 cases and more than 5 million deaths. The report from Johns Hopkins is also that the United States has had about 48 million cases with about 771,000 deaths. This means that the United States has had about 18.5% of all COVID-19 cases and about 15% of all COVID-19 deaths. This is clear and indisputable evidence of a catastrophic and unforgivable failure of public policy. Now that's a hard motherfucking fact of life, but that's a fact of life your ass is going to have to get realistic about. All of the social pantomime imposed by the useful idiots of our neo-fascist regime has made the so-called pandemic measurably worse, and by a large margin. The result of not working, social distancing, mask wearing, and the rest of the idiotic freak show is that the United States has almost 4 times more deaths than the global average and almost 5 times more cases. Most horrifying is that the people who are responsible are now doubling down on their failed policies.
Get vaccinated. Get vaccinated. Get vaccinated.
On Thursday, November 25th, 2021, I posted a video addressed to the objectively verifiable fact that our elected officials and their bureaucratic and media co-conspirators had completely failed the American people. I immediately received an email from Google that the video violated YouTube medical misinformation policies. There was no real explanation. Google only provided a general statement that YouTube does not allow claims about the so-called COVID-19 vaccines which contradict expert consensus. Google provided a link to the policy which I supposedly violated. It states that YouTube does not allow content about COVID-19 that poses a serious risk of egregious harm. It was difficult to believe that this was real. However, considering how hard the boys in the research department have been working on the new edition of the Newspeak Dictionary, I had to check the status of these words. I was relieved to find that they are still in dictionaries which are in common use among English-speaking people. Serious has a number of definitions. The closest in context to Google's claim is significant or worrying because of possible danger or risk, not slight or negligible. Significant is defined as sufficiently great or important to be worthy of attention, noteworthy. Risk is defined as a situation involving exposure to danger. Egregious is defined as outstandingly bad. Bad in this context means unfavorable or adverse. Harm is a physical injury, especially one which is deliberately inflicted. Material damage, actual or potential ill effect of danger. In essence, Google's position is that the video I posted is a very large threat to cause other people physical injuries or material damage. In other words, according to Google, stating the objectively verifiable fact that our elected officials have completely fucked up the COVID-19 response is, in contrast to that response itself, a risk to the safety of other people. I don't doubt that there are some faggots down in Santa Clara who are verklempt because not everyone believes their bullshit, but none of this is about the truth. This is about money, lots and lots of money. The chemical companies who are producing the so-called vaccines, which the useful idiots are pushing, are making a profit of $1,000 every second. Anyway, shortly after I submitted my appeal, I received another auto-generated response from Google denying the appeal. Google claimed that it's their job to make sure that YouTube is a safe place for everyone. I mention this for 2 reasons. First, it appears to me that Google is actively committing crimes against humanity. In 1948, the countries of the world agreed on a Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This treaty includes a provision that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes the freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media. In 1976, the countries of the world amplified the previous declaration in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. One of the underlying tenets of this covenant is that the ideal of free human beings enjoying civil and political freedom and freedom from fear and want can only be achieved if everyone is permitted to enjoy his civil and political rights. At Article 19, the covenant recites the rule that everyone has the right of freedom of expression, including seeking, receiving, and imparting information and ideas of all kinds through any media of his choice. But Google will not respect these rights. Instead, Google actively oppresses these rights. Google is part of the propaganda section of our neo-fascist government. Its activities are right out of the Nazi playbook. This playbook is declassified. Basically, psychological warfare is the application of the techniques of propaganda. After the war, Allied Command was keen to learn why the Nazis were so successful at propaganda. Propaganda per se was not new. What was new, however, were advancements in psychology and a vastly expanded media. Of course, today's media dwarfs the media available to the Nazis and their evil plans. There are two basic principles in psychological warfare. First, the propagandist must hammer, pound, and insist across all media on a few simple themes or slogans, such as, "It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated." Second, the propagandist must isolate the people and make them fearful. Further, the propagandist must not allow any outside corrective. No information which criticizes or contradicts the official or approved narrative may be allowed. The goal is the mass hypnosis of the public. Obviously, Google is a tool both for narrative dissemination and for quashing dissenting opinion. Google's power to control information, to shape the public debate, and quite literally to control thought is a Nazi wet dream. If we are going to talk about what poses a serious risk of egregious harm, we'd have to start with Google. Google's criminal activities are far more dangerous than anything a free man might post on YouTube. My second point is that it strikes me that staying on YouTube under these circumstances is the equivalent of living on my knees. If I submit to Google's crimes, then I am complicit in them. This I cannot be. I believe in freedom. Because Google has become evil, I must withdraw. This means giving up YouTube, obviously, and Gmail. I also have canceled my YouTube television subscription, and I will be removing YouTube from my Roku channel lineup. I will cancel my Project Fi cell phone service, and I will stop using Google for search. Google is garbage. It used to be very useful with lots of academic links, but now it's just advertising. None of this one-man boycott will change anything. However, all told, it will probably cost Google a few $1,000s a year. If I ever have anything else to say, I will be posting videos on Rumble. I will put the channel address in the description box below.